I know some of you are concerned about what's going on with one of our partners, Swan Bitcoin. We've been getting a lot of questions over DMs and in the live chat. We hear you, and that's why we asked Cory, the CEO and founder of Swan, to come on the show today to talk about it. So I want to welcome Cory on stage. How you doing, Cory?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good, dude. Just, you know what? Bitcoin time is just every week, bro. It just moves so quickly and everything happens so fast. What's going on with you?
All good. Yeah, I think, you were just asking me just a second ago, like, are you stressed out? And I was like, I mean, not really, because this business is actually not the most complicated business to run. And we have a spectacular team that you couldn't get in a normal industry for a business that's not that complicated. Like, you couldn't get this kind of team where everybody's way overqualified for their job and like on the mission and willing to work an 80-hour week when you need to, if you were working on like a fucking SaaS company or ad tech or something like that. It's just, so my experience in startups, there's never seen anything like this. And so, we basically get all our shit done year round until there's a social media firestorm or a migration, of back-end partners or whatever. And then it's okay, because you basically work in peaks and valleys. So I feel like we all have, plenty in reserve, and we celebrate at Pacific Bitcoin and celebrate in Miami and hang out with each other in Mexico City or El Salvador or whatever. And there's all this camaraderie, built up. And, it's very similar to like what, I had not a front row seat, but a second row seat to what Unchained went through with all the liquidations on the night of, March 12th, 2020. And, that team banded together and handled their shit, and everybody was fine. And it's the love and dedication and honor and integrity of Bitcoiners working on Bitcoin shit that makes it happen. So, I feel pretty good overall. Like, I'm not that stressed out. And, I'm glad we made the decision to start diversifying our back end partners back in Q4, and that we actually started doing it in January, and we were sort of, well equipped to handle it, when it came time to pull the trigger a few weeks ago. And I figure, for you guys in the audience and everybody, like, just to address the timing of why we did it. So first of all, we were already planning to migrate over to Fortress plus BitGo, mainly for geographic coverage. So this was just getting back into all 50 states. So Prime Trust used to have 50 states. They lost New York a couple years ago when New York decided not to honor trust companies from other states. That was like 30% of our business that we lost at the time. And then, unfortunately, a lot of people are angry that we lost Texas. So Prime Trust lost Texas. That was like 15% of the remaining business. And then they were just kind of bleeding state after state. So they were down to 44 states when we finally decided to pull the trigger. And the reason that we decided to do it all at once instead of kind of slower over, 3 months or something like that, was the Connecticut regulator was a dick, basically. All of the previous ones had said, yeah, you can, keep these accounts open and keep the Bitcoin there, but no more purchases. Was pretty much the mode. And then Connecticut said, no, you have to close and you have to sell the Bitcoin of all your users and distribute dollars to them by May 31st. And so when we saw that, we were like, oh man, like that's just not tenable. That creates tax consequences. It kind of betrays the trust of everything that we kind of stand for. And so we decided to just rip the Band-Aid off and do the whole migration at once. So withdrawals were available throughout. Concierge for the first week or so. And then we got the self-serve withdrawals back on, I think on Monday or maybe Tuesday morning. So it was back in the user interface. Buys are back for almost everybody, I think, at this point. I know it was over half of the people by yesterday, and should be pretty much everybody else today. And then we should have the automatic recurring purchases plans turned back on for next week. So if you have a normal buy planned for like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, that should work next week. And that's pretty much it. The last one after that will just be automatic withdrawals. I know a lot of people have those set up, so we should have that functionality ported over to the Fortress BitGo stack. I actually don't know, maybe like end of next week, something like that. I don't have a target for that, but soon-ish. I'll pause for a sec. I'm also in the chat, by the way, so I'll take a look and see and maybe pick off questions from the chat.
Yeah, and then Cory, I actually wanted to ask you about a tweet that came out yesterday night, and I think it's really, really important that people understand this. So I'm just going to read the first paragraph and just kind of ask you to elaborate. So you said it's important that qualified custodians serve Bitcoin companies so that brokerage can be separate from custody, as is law for traditional markets. Why is that so important?
Yeah. So and I set this up from the very beginning, I didn't want to custody user funds at Swan ever, because then if Swan goes under, you actually have the assets, and you can say what you want in the legal text or whatever, and say like, oh no, actually our customers own this, but that's not always the way that bankruptcy courts see it. And we've seen that with a number of crypto collapses over the years. So I think that our users have always really appreciated, and this is just talking for like retail and high net worth individual users, have always appreciated, when they understand it, they've appreciated the fact that their account is actually an individually owned, legally segregated, bankruptcy remote trust account held with a qualified custodian. And that means that if the custodian goes bankrupt or Swan goes bankrupt, you still own your coins legally and they're distributed to you. So that I think is the right way to set it up if you're not doing self-custody or collaborative custody, right? So I'm just, to clarify, I think the way that Unchained approaches it with multi-sig and the way that we will approach multi-sig with Swan custody, the stuff we're building with Spectre after buying them last year, that's under the bucket in the realm of self-custody. It's not being held by some third party. And that's why Bitcoin tech is awesome. Anyway, so take self-custody if you can. The other thing to consider, which is maybe different for us than some of the other Bitcoin brokers out there, is that we actually have a lot of people that cannot work with a company that custodies the Bitcoin. So advisors, we have a big business where we work with wealth managers and registered investment advisors. And so they actually have to have the assets in a qualified custodian. It can't, like, they couldn't have the sats just custodied with, a Bitcoin broker, basically. More questions.
Gotcha. Okay, I want to be respectful of your time, Cory. I know you have to leave in about 4 or 5 minutes.
I'm good, actually. I thought you wanted me till 9:40 Pacific, so it's up to you.
Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, just people in the chat saying, Cory, check your DMs. I sent my app. I'm gonna take a more lighthearted question, trying to change the tone a little bit. It says, Cory, will Seattle get the Sonics back? If so, when do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think that they're going to expand from 30 to 32 teams, have 16 in each conference, 8 in each division. Makes a ton of sense. Like the NFL, 32 teams is a great number. And Seattle seems like it's top of the list. And I've heard, probably Vegas maybe. So I guess you'd see probably 2 teams added to the West, and one of the West teams maybe moved east, maybe Memphis or something like that.
Gotcha. Okay. So back to Swan. Where do you see the future of Swan?
Hold on. Very, very, very important question in the chat from Yellow. No, your sponsorship is good to go. So we still expect birdies and Muppets and stuff at Pacific Bitcoin on the main stage.
Perfect. And I got a soundboard for that.
Don't stop believing. Hodl to that feeling.
Yellow's always listening. So Cory, where do you see the future of Swan 6 months to a year out from now?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the craziest thing is, Monday with the Binance suit immediately sent me into, 20 hours of conversations and strategic planning and thinking about what that means with the SEC cracking down on all the unregistered crypto securities, basically. And then Coinbase, obviously, on Tuesday, it just basically creates this massive open field for fast running for Bitcoin financial services companies over the next 3 years. And the reason I say 3 years is because I think that traditional financial companies will go heavy on Bitcoin at the top of the next bull market, and then they'll get something in market like 12 months later. So basically T plus 12 whenever we're sort of peaking in whatever the next bull market is. So I'm just kind of loosely saying like 3 years. And then the other thing that you might see is if we continue to grow and, Strike, River, Unchained, one or more of them continue to do well, I do think you'll see something like, $100 million seed round from Andreessen for a Bitcoin only financial services firm, kind of like the Lightspark deal, something like that. Right. So, the existing four that have reached some scale, Strike, River, Unchained, Swan, I think have like a really good 3 years ahead of us. And it makes sense to go as fast as you possibly can. So we are, dramatically increasing marketing, dramatically increasing staff, going to go raise a bunch of money this fall and, just go absolutely as fast as we can. Like I'd like to see Swan over 200 people by the end of the year. I think we're about 115 right now. I just greenlit, what is Friday? On Wednesday, I greenlit a 15x increase in marketing spend for Swan. And it will be higher ROI because you don't have, I think what you'll see is the crypto casinos dramatically dropping their spend in the advertising auctions. So it should be really easy to get these slots at the top of Google search results and to get your ads to show up much more cheaply and much more cost effectively and to be clicked on much more and converted to users, in Facebook display network, things like that. So yeah, it's freaking go time.
Yeah, we got a question in the chat. I think it's a really good one. Max Trotter says, when Lightning withdraws?
Oh, I already do Lightning withdrawals on Swan. Well, yeah, I think we're trickling it out. It's kind of with an alpha group. It's the whole Swan team is using them. They're awesome. And we will, now obviously we've got to get through this migration, but I think it's already working again on the Fortress BitGo side. And we did have a few alpha users outside the company testing them before we started the migration. But yeah, I mean, in the next month or so, you'll see in your dashboard withdraw to Lightning address.
Awesome. There was a very, very, I saw this tweet and it made me feel something. You said back on June 6th, so a couple days ago, you said 2002 to 2008, golden age of online gambling fraud. 2009 to 2006, golden age of ad tech fraud. 2017 to 2022, golden age of crypto fraud. And I want to reference also, what happened earlier on the week. Binance was sued on Monday, and then Coinbase was sued on Tuesday. It seems like Coinbase is putting up a little bit of a fight. Binance, it was announced this morning that they're halting dollar deposits into the exchange. So what are your thoughts on that, as the CEO of a Bitcoin only company?
My thoughts on just like what's going on with Binance and what will happen there. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
they're done in the USA and they're going to face massive, massive financial penalties just based on the SEC case. And if CZ doesn't cough that up and basically never step foot in the USA again, then, they'll start creating lots of problems for him outside the USA as well. That leaves aside that, there's probably 50 to 100 things in the SEC case that are criminal and are pursuable by Department of Justice. And so those come with criminal charges and jail time and things like that. So we'll see what happens on that end. But the DOJ hasn't stepped in yet. But they've got the goods there. These are like actual internal documents from Binance and chat transcripts and emails from Binance executives to each other, detailing a multi-year criminal conspiracy.
Yeah. And so, and how is the industry going to change, right? Because, the ability for, these ICO people or crypto developers to, get in the pre-sale and then get it listed on an exchange, those days are over. How is that going to change the whole perspective? Are more people, do you anticipate more people to focus on Bitcoin only? Because I know that the whole crypto thing was a major distraction. Also in the lawsuits, a lot of very, very popular cryptos were named as securities, just to name a few. There was, of course, the BNB token, Cardano, which is very popular, Dash, Matic, et cetera, et cetera. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be way easier to get people to focus on Bitcoin in the United States for sure. And I think that will have a carryover effect around the world as well. Just call a spade, understand what it is, understand you're buying something that they're marketing as essentially an unregistered security, but you have no rights. So you're just basically playing a confidence game and kind of a greater fool essentially a Ponzi scheme with all these things other than Bitcoin. So I think that the education path becomes easier. The come in hearing about Bitcoin, get confused by shit coins, and then realize Bitcoin matters. The shitcoin horseshoe, I think, becomes shorter and shallower on average for everyone around the world that gets into the space. So yeah, just kind of wildly bullish for Bitcoin and Bitcoin adoption to clearly delineate between Bitcoin and shitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. And one final question, Cory, just to roll it out. And I just got this over DM and for people tuning in. So just to be clear, user funds are secured and you anticipate everything should be completely back online in the next couple of weeks.
Everything's back on. Withdrawals never paused. Self-serve withdrawals were back on in your dashboards at the beginning of the week. Buys are back on for almost everybody today. Majority of people yesterday, the rest stragglers today, is what I'm told. And then, that's it really. I forget what the first part of the question was.
the first part of the question.
Oh, funds are SAFU. Yeah.
Yes.
We moved all the assets off weeks ago.
Gotcha.
Off of Prime Trust. So like just in the event that they wouldn't raise enough money and regulators would clamp down in some way because their balance sheet was weak or an acquisition falls through or something like that, like it just didn't make any sense in my mind to leave any user funds at risk. So we asked everybody to come along with us. So far, 0.2% of users have opted out and decided not to go along to the new backend partners.
Bullish. Okay. Opti, I want to bring you up. Do you have any questions for Cory?
Not at all. I mean, just shouts out to Cory and Swan and the whole team. What do we always say? A Bitcoin company by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. So I am sure the Bitcoiners over there, solid team, are doing their best to ensure funds are SAFU, and everyone in the chat saying funds are SAFU. Swan says funds are SAFU.
Is that like a CZ thing? What is the SAFU
Yeah,
thing?
it's a CZ thing.
I don't like crypto memes.
Me neither. You know when they paused the withdrawal, I tweeted it out. I said, I guess funds are not SAFU when the SEC asked to freeze the assets.
I know. I mean, my favorite is like every time there's like a Binance headline, I just retweet, I quote tweet it, and I just say "still for?" ? Because CZ evidently says that number 4 means that's just FUD or don't worry about it or something like that. Anyway,
well, Cory, I know your time is precious. Thank you so much for coming on Simply today and clarifying it all for our viewers and listeners. We really appreciate it on Simply side, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners appreciate it as well. Thank you, Cory.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys.